John was sitting in a booth at the diner when Kelly walked in and sat down. "Thanks for coming, Kelly," said John. "Well, John, you said it was really important. From the way you said it, I figured I'd see what it was. So what's going on?" Kelly asked. "I have a question for you," John said. "Question? Question? You could ask me a question on the phone, John." Instead, I drove across town during my lunch break. Kelly slammed her hand down on the table in frustration. "This is not just an ordinary question, Kelly. This is a question that needs to be asked face-to-face," said John. "Okay, ask your question," Kelly said. "Now, do you believe me?" asked John. "I believe you about what?" Kelly asked. "About Eric," John said. "About Eric?" "John, what the hell are you talking about?" Kelly asked. "About 3 months before we broke up, I noticed the way he looked at you and how he flirted with you. I told you I don't like it, and I told him I don't like it. You said that I was imagining everything, and you even got angry at me for not trusting you. Over the last 3 months of our relationship, things have gotten worse and worse. He openly harassed you in front of everyone, and you allowed him to do it. I told you I didn't like it, and you said you didn't believe he was doing anything wrong and got mad at me again. And then the day came when I returned home and found that you were gone. You moved out while I was at work and didn't even leave a note explaining it. I was heartbroken and confused until about a week later, when I heard that you were living with him. Then I realized what happened. So now do you believe me?" asked John. "John, Eric had nothing to do with what happened between you and me," Kelly said. "Oh, really? Then tell me, Kelly, where did I get this?" asked John. He pulled a small box out of his pocket and placed it on the table between them. Kelly was surprised to see this. She began to tremble. "What is this?" Kelly asked. "I think you know exactly what it is. I bought this a few days before I first noticed you and Eric flirting at that party. The first time I told you I didn't like it. We were so incredibly happy together. Or at least I was happy. And it seemed to me that you were happy too. When I saw him flirting with you and you told me it didn't mean anything, I put it off until I calmed down. I never had a chance to calm down. Everything just kept getting worse and worse until the day you left, Kelly. You said Eric had nothing to do with what happened between us. Then explain to me, Kelly, how I got away from wanting to give it to you. Being heartbroken and hated in just 3 months. Explain it to me, Kelly," said John. John opened the box and placed it in front of Kelly. Kelly knew what was in the box, but seeing the sparkle of a large diamond on her engagement ring completely broke her. She burst into tears. John just sat and looked at her for several minutes. "Do you believe me now, Kelly?" asked John. Kelly couldn't bring herself to answer. She simply looked at John with tears in her eyes, and then got up from the table, ran to her car, and drove away. John remained sitting at the table. He closed the ring box and put it back in his pocket. John was confused when a large man slid towards the booth that Kelly had just vacated. "Hello? What do you want here?" asked John. "I involuntarily overheard your conversation with the young lady." "You were a little harsh, don't you think?" asked Edward. "No, I didn't. We were together for 3 years. Hell, we bought a house together. A house that I now pay for myself. She never showed that she wasn't happy, until I saw her at that party, flirting with him. She let it happen, but he was the aggressor. I told her this was happening. She denied it even until the very end. Now she lives with that son of a bitch. I asked her to meet me today, to see if she would trust me now that he ruined our relationship. I wanted to show her how much I loved her and how much I wanted to be with her. The ring conveyed the message to her quite clearly. Now I hurt her as much as she hurt me," John said. "Maybe if you spent more time taking care of Kelly and being less jealous, my son wouldn't be able to steal her from you," Edward said smugly. "Your son? Eric is your son?" John shouted. "Yes," said Edward. John stood up from the table, grabbed the man, pulled him to his feet, and punched him in the face as hard as he could, causing him to fall to the floor. Edward cringed and raised his hands to protect his face as John leaned down and looked into his eyes. "It was because you raised a vile freak who steals other people's women," said John. John threw the money for the meal on the table and left the diner. A few hours later. On the other side of town, Eric returned home and immediately realized that something was wrong. Kelly's belongings were missing. He dialed her cell phone number. "Hello?" Kelly said. "Kelly, baby. What's going on? Where are you?" asked Eric. I can't be with you anymore, Eric," Kelly sobbed. "What? Why?" "Kelly, what you're saying makes no sense," said Eric. He was right. He was right. He was right from the very beginning." Kelly sobbed again. "Who was right?" "What are you talking about, Kelly?" asked Eric. "John, he was right. You stole me from him. I let it happen, but you stole me." "Kelly, you left him voluntarily," said Eric. "You made me agree. I shouldn't have let you get so close. John and I were happy for 3 years before you started hitting on me. He told me what you were doing. I didn't believe him. He was right." "Damn you, Eric," Kelly said. "Kelly, don't be like that. If John let this happen, that's his problem," said Eric. "No, that's my problem. He warned me. He tried to stop me. I didn't listen to him," Kelly said. "Kelly, baby, what about us?" asked Eric. "We are no more. We should never have existed," Kelly said. "So you're going back to him?" "That's the thing, Kelly." "Are you going back to John?" asked Eric. "No. John will never take me back after what I did." "Then why are you leaving me?" asked Eric. "I am indebted to John. I realize my mistake and must correct it to the best of my ability," Kelly said. "Mistake? Kelly, I was not mistaken," Eric exclaimed. "John was going to propose to me. He showed me a stunning ring. That first time you flirted with me, he got so angry that he decided to wait until he calmed down. 3 months later, I left him. I let you ruin 3 years of happiness in just 3 months. I was a fool. I hate you, Eric, and I never want to see or hear from you again." "Kelly, wait," said Eric. Kelly hung up. Eric stared at his phone for a moment, then clenched his fists in anger. "That bastard will pay for this," said Eric. Eric got into the car and drove to John's house, the house where his seduction of Kelly began. He ran to the door and began angrily pounding on it with his fists. John had a very good idea who was standing at the door. He had no idea what Kelly did after she left the diner, but he figured Eric would come to avenge his father. John was ready when he opened the door. Eric threw the first punch, but John dodged before throwing a punch of his own, which knocked Eric back, and he fell into the yard. "It's a pity. The son is just like his father. At least he had the excuse that he was old." "Did he send you here, or did you come on your own?" asked John. "What are you talking about, son of a bitch?" Eric asked, standing up. "Are you telling me that your father didn't call you and tell you about how I punched him in the face at the diner and left him cowering on the floor like a little child?" asked John. "What? Did you hit my father?" asked Eric. "I had to. He overheard my conversation with Kelly and then came to your defense. He deserves it for raising a freak like you," John said. "Oh, you son of a bitch. What did you tell Kelly?" asked Eric. "What the hell do you care?" asked John. "I care because when I returned home from work, all her things were taken out of my apartment and she was long gone. I called her and she said she didn't want anything to do with me anymore. So you tell me what the hell you told her. Go talk to your father. He heard the whole conversation and got off my property before I broke several of your ribs and gave you a black eye," said John. Eric looked at John and realized that coming here to challenge him to a fight was a mistake. He backed away, then turned, hurried to his car, and drove away. When John turned to go back into the house, there were tears in his eyes. "I think she finally believed me. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one."